Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to pick up where we left off with operant conditioning, taking a look at shaping, chaining, and the schedules of reinforcement. So in our last video, we established that operant conditioning focuses on shaping behavior using rewards and punishments. Reinforcements are meant to cause behaviors to continue. Punishments are meant to cause behaviors to stop. Reinforcements can either be positive or negative, giving you something good or taking away something unpleasant in order to encourage a behavior. And punishments can be positive and negative, giving you something bad or taking away something that you like in order to discourage a behavior. So today we're going to take a look at how do we build to those behaviors and how do we get those behaviors to continue. So shaping is something that B.F. Skinner used in his Skinner box to help build to the desired behavior. Shaping helps work closer and closer to the desired behavior by using small intermittent goals to eventually get to the ultimate goal. If he wanted a pigeon to spin in a circle, for example, he would reward them for making smaller turns until eventually they got bigger and bigger, and eventually it would turn around in a full circle. So he would shape the behavior by giving small rewards first and building to the behavior that he eventually wanted to see. So the idea with shaping is building on pre-existing behaviors and then trying to get them to work up to a new or different behavior. Chaining is used for multi-step behaviors. So if we want to train a dog, for example, to turn on a light switch, we might have to train two behaviors separately, flipping the switch and jumping on a chair, and then connecting those together so that it becomes one full command. So to tell the dog to turn on the light, it knows to jump up and turn on the light switch all in one go. So shaping usually leads to chaining for a complex behavior in order for a multi-step behavior to be carried out. You can think about how we learn the steps to a dance. You might learn them one at a time and then put them together in order to complete the entire dance. But how do we ensure that behaviors are going to continue? If we give continuous reinforcement for a behavior, we see that learning takes place very quickly. If I know I'll get a reward every time I do something, I'm going to do it and I'm going to get a reward. But we also know that extinction takes place very quickly with this as well. If I'm expecting a reward after every single behavior and I'm no longer getting it, then I'm not as likely to continue that behavior for a long period of time. So instead, we can create schedules of reinforcement that keep those reinforcements varied so we don't necessarily know when they're coming, or they come a little bit later than we'd like, to make sure that that behavior continues. It ensures the continuation of a behavior for longer than we see with continuous reinforcement. So there are different methods of reinforcement. We can either work with ratios, the number of times that you have to do something before you get a reward, or we can work with intervals, the amount of time that takes place before you get a reward. These are all different types of partial reinforcement schedules. So the first type of reinforcement schedule is called a variable ratio. So ratio meaning number of times, and variable meaning we don't know how many. So if you don't know how many times you have to do something before you get a reward, you're going to have to keep going in order to even have a chance to get a reward. This is like gambling, and it's highly addicting and one of the most successful types of reinforcement schedules because it's very dependent on your behavior. If you're playing slot machines and trying to win some money, you have to keep playing and keep pulling that lever. You might win, you might not, but if you even want a chance to win, you have to play again. You don't know how many times you'll have to do that before a reward comes, or if one comes ever, but the only chance you have to even win is to continue playing. And so that is why variable ratio is such an addicting form of a reinforcement schedule. Fixed ratio means you know how many times you have to do something before getting a reward. So this is again dependent on your behavior, but now you know what you're working towards. So if a person who's working at a t-shirt company gets paid for every 10 t-shirts they make, they know they have to make those 10 shirts and then they'll get paid. If you're a car salesman who gets a raise after every 5 cars you sell, you know you're working towards selling your 5th car. Because you're not being rewarded after every single sale, it allows that behavior to continue for longer. It also encourages faster working because they're working towards a goal, and you might be more susceptible to making mistakes that way. But if fast work is what you're looking for, then a fixed ratio schedule of reinforcement might be the most successful kind you can use. Probably the least successful schedule of reinforcement is the variable interval. So now we're talking about time passing. And with variable, we don't know how much time is going to pass before you get your reward. This is challenging because it's not necessarily dependent on your behavior. Your behavior has no influence of when the reward comes. Say, for example, you're calling a radio station to win concert tickets, and they're on the line with another person. You could call once and sit on hold, or you could call 15 times and sit on hold. But you have no control over when they'll hang up and answer your phone call. So your behavior, with the exception of that first initial phone call, has no impact on when you get your reward. And so it's not very dependent on your behavior, and you don't know when your reward is coming. Another example could be waiting to see when your car is ready at a mechanic's. You might call them once a day for a week, or you might call them twice a day for a week. But if the car is not ready, your calling, although it might bother them, might not have an impact on the outcome of when that car is ready, of when the reward of having a fixed car comes. If you have an unpredictable mailman, you could check your mailbox once a day, or you could check it 15 times a day, but you don't know when he's going to show up. So all of these are variable interval rewards or reinforcements. The final one is a fixed interval, and this time we know how much time is going to pass. In this instance, your behavior again really doesn't have an influence on when the reward comes, but at least you know that it's coming. So this is kind of like being paid on the same day of the month every single month. Maybe you're paid on the 5th and the 20th of every month. That would be a fixed interval schedule. Now, of course, the amount that you work during that time is going to indicate how much of a reward you get, but you can't make the time go faster to get your reward sooner. You just have to wait for the time to pass in order to get your reward of getting paid. We see this in Skinner's research that pigeons who get rewarded after 5 minutes of pecking a disc are going to be more slow and methodical in their work than pigeons that are rewarded for every 20 pecks, because they know that they're going to get the reward no matter what, as opposed to the pigeons who have to peck the disc 20 times. They go really fast in order to get that reward. So that really encourages that slow and methodical work. Finally, there are some other types of negative reinforcement that can also influence behavior, and we refer to these as escape and avoidance learning. If you're experiencing something unpleasant and you want to make it go away, that is known as escape learning. For example, a rat who feels an electric shock and then jumps off the platform is being trained to jump off the platform at the experience of the unpleasant electric shock. By making that electric shock go away, they are reinforcing the behavior of jumping off the platform. That can be shaped into avoidance learning if that electric shock is precipitated by a sound. So if they're given a warning that the shock is going to take place, the rat will jump off the platform prior to experiencing the electric shock, avoiding it altogether in order to escape that negative reinforcement. And it will encourage them to continue jumping off the platform at the sound of the bell. So we don't always have to experience the unpleasant stimulus first in order to shape our behavior. We're going to go ahead and stop there for today. Our final video on learning is going to focus on observational learning and how we learn by watching others. So thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember, be kind to your mind.